September 12th, 2025. We're driving north and west. We're on Park Avenue between Dix Hills and Huntington Station. We're making the trek to the Port Jefferson branch. We're going to be going towards the eastern end of the electrification on the Port Jefferson branch. We're going to be catching train 660 between Penn Station and Port Jefferson. Run past it. Equipment on that one tonight, DM30AC, 506 leading, 500 on the rear with 8. This is apparently the third east end engine now on it. Last week we saw 512 last Friday. Then on Sunday we saw 519. Basically ran and forth between destinations on the Port Jet branch and destinations out to Spionk. And today they swapped, or actually yesterday they swapped the eastern engine, put the 506 on it as of yesterday. It was supposed to be 518, 514, but they made it a 6-car set and ran that one tonight as train 14. And the 517 500 set, which was 664 last week, was 6. Basically was running between Spionk and Oyster Bay. And tonight that one's going out as train 42. It's a pretty nice Friday evening over here. We're getting to the Park Avenue crossing momentarily as you can hear the Waze announce that we are coming up to it. 660 will pass by here roughly around 554. Gets to Greenlawn at 558 and Huntington at 552. Pretty much right here as of now as we're coming up to the Pulaski Road crossing. The intersection of Pulaski Road and Park Avenue. Alright, we're taking a look at the Park Avenue crossing here in Huntington Station. At this point, just about 1,000 feet to the east of here is where the third rail ends. Off in the distance over there would be Cleat Lumber, where New York and Atlantic would serve. And this is the only customer on the Port Jet branch New York and Atlantic serves. Back until 2006, New York and Atlantic went all the way to Port Jefferson to service Nassau Suffolk Lumber. And ever since then, operations went as far east here as Cleat Lumber here in Huntington Station. At least once, if not twice a week, New York and Atlantic will service Cleat Lumber here. Time down 5:42. This is train 659, Port Jefferson to Jamaica. Passing by here, going through the Park Avenue crossing. Alright, we're taking a look to the west, towards the Huntington train station. As you notice, the track over here turns from double track to single track. Track on the left is the South Side Extension. Goes all the way here to the very end towards Park Avenue over here. And then in single track territory, Rule 261. It's basically single track territory, Rule 261, east of Country Interlocking at the east end of Huntington Station. The electric lock switch is here for the purpose if trains do need to make a reverse move on an emergency move only. Trains would have to get permission from Jamaica Control Center in order for a train to go through. This is not an interlocking by all means. This is an electric lock switch. remotely controlled by Jamaica Control Center. Used to be controlled by Divide Interlocking until about a year or two ago, when all operations got moved to the Jamaica Control Center. And there is cleat lumber. And we do have some loaded center beams on the spur. In the background there comes off the Port Jefferson branch. Newark and Atlantic trains have to go east to Duke Interlocking, just east of Northport. Engines have to come back to the west end, where trains can switch in. They would have to do all the switching in between normal revenue runs out to Port Jefferson. Sometimes the operations do occur at night, where there is very little train traffic. Time now is 5:55. 660 should be at the station now in Huntington. Last reported out of Hunt 1, a minute late at 5:54. At this point he should be in the station now. Time of arrival in Greenlawn would be 5:58, so he'll make a stop in Huntington and then proceed east. All right, time now is 5:57. And here comes train 660 heading east. To Port Jefferson. This equipment will be going to Port Jeff. We'll do a quick layup. We'll come out later on as train 3657. This train will be used for a few of the Montauk runs during the weekend, and should return Sunday evening as train 3682. All right, we're taking a look at the crossing of Eastgate Drive, the west end of Cold Spring Harbor. We'll be watching a few eastbounds going to Port Jeff and Huntington. First train we're going to see is train 1566 with an M9 set led by 9150 and 12 cars. Right behind that one will be train 664 to Port Jeff from Penn Station. The M30AC 509 leading 502 on the rear with 7. We'll see a couple of other consists before train 1568 comes through. 1568 tonight has an M3 set, 9910 the leader with 12. And this consist will go to Huntington, turn around as 4655, and go back to Hillside Yard, which is the electric multiple unit maintenance facility up the Long Island Railroad. Pretty much most of the consists out here tonight are running on time. This particular train running to Huntington, the first one, 1566, running about a minute late out of Syosset. This particular train will cross the Avery Road crossing, then Eastgate Drive, right before it stops here at Cold Spring Harbor. We'll be seeing train 1571 to Penn Station also. (1571) running with an M7 set, just like last week. And 1571 will be departing in about 3 or so minutes. And 1566 to arrive here momentarily. Last Friday at this particular time, we didn't see as many shadows as we are tonight. Very few, if any, clouds are in the sky here, which would hinder any sunlight. And the time now is 6:21, and the gates are coming down at Eastgate Drive for 1566. And again, 9150 is the leader with 12. Alright, 9079 is on the rear of this set. It just says 1566 is departing. Here comes 1571. And besides that comes train 664 with the 509 leading. Is arriving 664. PM30AC 509 502 on the rear with 7. And this is 1571, Huntington to Penn Station. Now is 6:31. And here comes train 1662 between Grand Central and Huntington, making its stop here, going through Avery Road and Eastgate Drive. $77.87 on the rear, one of the latest M7 builds. 2006 by Bombardier. It's going down East Street Drive. Time now is 6:51.
They all looked over at my mom and they were like, "Oh my god!"
And here comes train 1568.
Yeah, and they were like, "How much is food?" And mom was like, "Yeah, they was the food." Then they left.
Yeah, mom's like, "I was looking for your dad to help me out," and I was like, "Yeah, I was in the same position."
And then dad was like driving home with like 15 miles per hour. That's so weird. Yeah, that is so funny. I think it's like phone calls ringing out. He works and doing it. I'm Dr. Screw that. I would know.
Dr. Screw.
Especially because that wasn't the intention.
9910, 9909. 9898, 9897, 9908, 9907, 9920, 9919, 9810, 9809, and 9828, 9827. Train 1568 is approached. Here comes the M9 set for 1573. And here goes 1568 on its way to Huntington. .698 to Port Jefferson is following 1568. DM30AC 521 the leader, C350 12 on the rear with 4. Alright, we're at Huntington here. Taking a quick look of the M3 equipment that just came in as 1568. This equipment will be going back to Hillside Yard to lay out for the weekend. M3 said basically remained intact for about a week and a half. It's been intact for probably since last Thursday or Friday. Now we're turning west. So will probably be broken up, maybe into an 8-car set come Monday morning. Yeah, we're going into the east end here at Huntington. Again, we're watching this M3 set here. The set will be departing shortly. This is the terminus of the electrified service here on the Port Jefferson branch. And right over here, you're looking at the signals governing Hunt 3 interlocking. Signal on number 1 track shows stop and proceed, while number 2 shows stop. And again, this equipment turning around is 4655. Will go west out and go into number 1 track at Hunt 2. And we'll proceed west all the way to Hillside. And we're going east on Railroad Avenue at this point. We'll be passing the Port Jet branch right at Park Avenue. And we'll be going east on Pulaski Road to head home.